Welcome back everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast, and this time it is going to be a 4v4. Sent in by, what the fuck, why is there no sound? Company of Heroes 2, what the fuck. There we go. Sent in by 47, playing as the Brits on the western spawn of City 17. He's going to be bringing out an MG Vickers, and his friends are going to be Limo, playing as the Soviets. His friends on the right side are going to be Kako Naishino, playing as the Brits, and Pure Hydro playing as the Soviets. On the opposing side, we're going to have Commander Jack, Wehrmacht, Lancion playing as the OKW. Going for a Cubo Wagon already. AI Tetsuo playing as the OKW, also going for a Cubo Wagon, and that's a lot of numbers, playing as the Wehrmacht. Going from order. Interesting. Now, of course, very, very strong with the Cubo Wagons, the OKW. Of course, this is City 17, so it's a very, very big map, and getting the Cubo Wagons out as soon as possible is going to be a pretty decent instrument for the OKW to actually hold some ground and capture it at the start of the game. I'm actually going to speed it up very, very much because I'm guessing that this is going to be very, very long. 47 already going for some MGs and not actually going for any other units. I think he wants to set up some trenches, maybe. No, not just some sandbags with his 2 MGs. Interesting. I think he's gonna go for some kind of mortar pit strategy to defend this left side area of the map. In the meantime, he's gonna have to face both AI Tetsuo and 513. 513 is pretty strong with his mortar, because the mortar, of course, from the early game can indirect bombard that very lovely MG, avoiding it from, actually preventing it from firing at any kind of German units. 2 Cubo Wagons for AI Tetsuo. That's going to be very strong against the sniper, but there is the counter, which is the every scout car. On the other side, it seems like the Germans are just completely overrunning the Allied positions on the right side of the map, and that means that the Allies on the left side are going to have to do essentially double the work. Here comes the Emperor Scout Car, of course. Emperor Scout Car pretty easily to sort of dispatch the Cubo Wagon. However, the second Cubo Wagon seems to be enough to sort of protect the other brother. Of course, there's a Vickers Vickers Carrier, which takes out the Cubo Wagon fairly easily. In the meantime, on the left side, we have some infantry sections, and there goes a machine gun, unfortunately, but the second machine gun will nicely cover it and prevent the Focus Grenadiers from stealing the weapon, which is, of course, going to be recaptured, hopefully, by some units from 47. In the meantime, it looks like the right side of the map is quickly sort of stabilizing for the Allies. Kako, we have his engineers trying to sort of reestablish control over this building. And of course, with City 17, there's a lot of buildings on the right side that can be used by both sides, especially important are these, but when the fight goes towards the strategic point near the Allied base, then this building becomes increasingly important, and of course here comes the mortar emplacement. Speaking of technology, for the Germans, we don't really have a lot of tech bringing, but we have Lancion going for that Luce. Of course, very, very strong, but we're going to have to see whether or not the Allies can counter it. Universal Carrier has been upgraded with the Flamer, so Wasp Carrier is doing its job at roasting that headquarters, but very good job from AI Tetsuo bringing up that Recon Ripper, destroying the M3 Scout Car. In the meantime, the left side is firmly under control of the Allies, but at the same time, this could change any minute now because there aren't really any fortifications being set up by the Brits. 2 engineer squads up and running means that soon enough, I think, some fortifications that are coming up, and indeed we do see a forward assembly. 2Q goes down in an attempt to destroy the forward assembly and the Wasp Carrier, but that was very, very misguided. And in the meantime, it seems like the situation is still under the control of the Germans on the right side. The Allies absolutely need to do something to capture some of these points, especially this one and this one, to prevent the Germans from having a resource advantage, which so far they haven't been able to secure. Partisans being spawned in with anti-tank weapons from Pure Hydro, so Partisan Doctrine being chosen decent little counter to the Lukes, but the Lukes doesn't really seem to care all that much. Goes in and destroys all the support weapons, especially that mortar, and then is going to be able to very, very quickly escape. However, there is a... No, that's a power mine. Never mind. So, nothing too major going on right now on the right side that we haven't seen yet. In the meantime, on the left side, a second 222 from 513. I think this is definitely a mistake, because he's been sort of spending a little bit too much on this tier 2, especially in terms of fuel. Going with 2 scout cars is probably a bit excessive. 60 fuel spent on these bad boys, while they can be pretty okay, especially against snipers, they're really never going to be able to carry the weight for you in the mid game. You're going to need to go for some heavier weight stuff. I mean, at this point, especially 5-on-3 doesn't seem to have any Tigers, except the Tiger Ace, in his inventory of commanders, so might as well for him go for Panzer IV at this point. But we'll see, indeed, we do have from Lemeo a Tank Heavy Battalion command. He doesn't have enough resources yet to bring something out. Of course, just built the building. 16 kills for Lukes in the meantime on the right side. It's been going fairly well for the... Oh, that's definitely not a good positioning for the Bofors. The Bofors should have been positioned somewhere up here, because down here it's really not going to be doing much. It's only to get artillery every once in a while. Kako, however, has chosen the Engineer's Doctrine. So, of course, with the Engineer Regiment, he's going to have that self-repair, which can be fairly useful. And that's going to be the end of this building, I'm guessing, because it's going to go down to the fire of the Bofors of Mortar. I can stop speeding up right now, I think. Very nicely positioning that MG in this 4-story building. That's going to basically just cover this entire area without any major problems for the Germans. Of course, there is still the problem of the mortar, but the mortar has been forced to brace by the action of this Granatwerfer 34. So very nice usage of that counter battery coming in for the Germans. At this point, however, they need to push in and do some more damage to the Allies before, the mortar pit actually goes out of race, which is exactly what has happened, and it actually counter batteries the mortar into oblivion. In the meantime, 2 snipers for Kako and Aishino. Definitely going to be fairly good against the MGs and also against the mortars. Might be able to push back the Germans enough to actually recapture some points on the right side. Vet 2 Lukes still around for Lancion, and he's going to be able to use that along with the Stuka to destroy a lot of enemy infantry. However, the Stuka is going to be especially useful against the Brits and their defensive emplacements, whereas the Lukes is going to be mostly useful against the Soviets and their support weapons. However, interesting. Shock troops being pushed up right near the base. At the same time, though, the Germans still control this fuel point, which is very, very bad for the Allies. They absolutely need to get some control over this point as soon as possible so that they actually reach the Germans in terms of fuel income. They really don't want to fall behind, and here comes the STKFZ Stuka, but that wasn't really the best choice. He should have waited for the map hack wagon from AI Tetsuo to set up so that he could actually see what was going on and which allied units were vulnerable to a Stuka strike. Bit of a miscoordination there from the Germans. Here comes the Lukes. That's definitely not good for these conscripts. We're going to have to retreat. In the meantime, there's some camouflaged partisans right near this wall. Interesting little choice for Pure Hydro. Of course, the ability to call down the... Oh, actually, this is a reserve army, not a partisan doctrine. Right, sorry. Yeah, reserve army, of course. My favorite doctrine for the Soviets, actually. And, yeah, that's going to be very, very good for those partisan tank hunters. But, however, it's also going to be very good for the Papasha conscripts. Papasha conscripts going to be fairly useful against enemy infantry at close ranges and really, really nice in flanking support weapons. Especially very good for the rapid conscription so that you can get free squads of conscripts. And then the ML20 can be useful against in a situation, especially in a situation where you have lots of OKWs. In the meantime, very nice flank coming in from this Lukes. This Lukes has been microed very, very well by Lancion. And of course, here comes the support of a Panzer IV. So this is a pretty big push from the Germans, but really, they could have been bringing in some more forces. They have a lot of stuff over here that's actually not really doing much. And that's not going to be good because there's a forward assembly here for 47. And 47 can just use the forward assembly to keep his AT gun crewed and alive and now he can just reposition the AT gun after he has destroyed, in fact, decrewed the Panzer II Lukes. He can just reposition it to destroy the Panzer IV. Panzer IV might be able to destroy the 3-inch mortar emplacement, however, so a pretty decent victory for the Germans. They have managed to throw a bit of a wrench in the Allied defensive plan. Basically, now they're kind of in disarray, and so they're not going to have the ability to respond to this infantry push, which, however, came in a little bit too late to save the Lukes. Lukes, however, has been recrewed by the Allies, so that's definitely a very good victory for the USSR and the Brits. In the meantime, however, Panzer II Lukes tries to come in. I'm not sure where the AT gun went. Where did the AT gun go? Oh, back to base. 47 has gone for the Royal Artillery Regiment, and there goes the Lukes, unfortunately. I don't think that pushing back the AT gun back to the base was a good idea. But at the same time, no AT grenade. It's actually on cooldown. Very unfortunate. So the Germans definitely come on top, except for the fact that they lose their veteran Lukes, which isn't really the best thing ever. 47 has positioned a Bofors near the VP. The VP situation is in favor of the Allies only slightly, and in general it seems like the Germans are going to have the opportunity to get a bit of revenge going on against them, especially since they now captured essentially and hold both the center and the right, which I'm guessing that it was the center that was giving the Allies a bit of an edge. Okay, so support weapons coming in very, very handy for Pure Hydro. He has gone for an interesting strategy, going for the reserve army, only now activating a couple of rapid conscriptions to actually replenish his conscripts. Before he only had 1 conscript squad, now he has 4. So he has clearly been using that rapid conscription, as also evidenced by the fact that he had 300 munitions before and now he has none. Oh, here comes a very devastating, potentially Stuka barrage. Never mind. So they survive. Pure Hydro going for a T-34-76. He could also go for a Katyusha out of his Mechanized Armor Compania. Of course, T-34-76 is indeed very, very good for hunting down that Stuka because of its expendability and its speed. And also kind of its survivability compared to light tanks. So in general, the Germans are going to have to watch out for that. Kakonishno is actually floating a heck of a lot of manpower that he should not be floating. At this point, I feel like the Brits could be using a couple of emplacements further up. I'm not sure why he decided to actually position this Bofors so far behind. I know he was getting pushed back to base, but realistically, the Germans shouldn't have been able to actually hold onto such an area anyway. So he could have definitely been a little bit more aggressive and positioned his Bofors somewhere more close to an actual probable front line. Just waiting for the moment in which the Germans could actually, attack into this area doesn't seem the best choice for him. He has wasted a bit of resources in that, and also he's been essentially floating a lot of manpower, so he could have been going for a few more infantry squads or a few more emplacements somewhere. In the meantime, left side of the map going fairly well for the Allies, actually. There goes one of the Panzer IVs for 513. 513 still doesn't seem to be too sort of crystal clear on what he actually wants to follow in terms of a strategy. He doesn't really seem to be going for anything particular. He's just built a couple of Panzer IVs. At this point, he doesn't even have the phase free. So not really much of a plan for the late game for him. We'll see whether or not that comes back to bite him in the proverbial behind. Pretty huge push coming in from Pure Hydro, actually coming in with a lot of infantry squads, and the T-34-76 is going to be destroying this mechanized regiment headquarters. However, I'm not counting Lanceong out yet now. He doesn't really have a lot of forces nearby, but he has gotten a few troops. And here comes the Stuka barrage. That's his kind of trump card. It's Ved 1, and there goes quite a lot of damage dealt on infantry from Pure Hydro. He wasn't able to actually activate the rapid conscription in time. He also loses his squad up here, and is forced to retreat and loses the partisan squad. What the? He's guarding the door. Here comes another Stuka strike. Who actually purchase the second Stuka, it could only be AI Tetsuo. Interesting choice. He has gone for all of the buildings. And there goes the Teller Mine. Very, very nice placement of the Teller Mine from, I believe it was Commander Jack. And Commander Jack definitely using that to his advantage. And also now he's bringing out a Sturmpanzer Brummbär. I still feel like Commander Jack hasn't really been playing aggressively enough, as evidenced by the fact that I actually haven't talked about him at all this entire game. Because it's just not been... Ooh, interesting. Obersalan with Shrek. Because he's just been not involved in fighting all that much. If you go ahead and look at the damage dealt, you can see that Commander Jack is quite behind his teammate Lancion. However, AI Tetsuo seems to be even more behind. I wonder if it's because of different targets or because he's been turtling this entire time. Interesting placement for a Pack 43. I don't think the allies are going to be expecting this. Of course, right now, here comes Lemel with his conscripts, and he's going to be able to spot that fairly easily. Again, interesting choice from AI Tetsuo going for that Stuka. I think that he definitely wants to go for a King Tiger, and he's going to have Flak Half-Trek. That is an interesting choice. I don't agree with the Flak Half-Trek. I mean, it's pretty safe to say. I'm trying to think why he would want to go with that. Maybe he would be scared of allied air power? But really, that really doesn't justify the purchase of a Flak Half-Trek in a 4v4, especially when you have a lot of OKW base buildings. Interesting. So right now, here comes a bit of a artillery barrage on the right side. I'm guessing that that's a... Wait, what? Yeah, it is a Stuka close air support, actually. There goes the Firefly, forced to retreat, and Su-85 also forced to retreat. In the meantime, here comes the action of the Spoofers. Getting shot at by the Pack, but also shooting at the planes, and that Pack is going to be forced to retreat by the Churchill AVRE from Nishino. Of course, going for that demolition specialist from the Engineer Doctrine is definitely going to be fairly good against the support weapons, and especially good against the OKW trucks. However, we'll see whether or not this Churchill can actually be supported, because again, Kako Nishino doesn't really have too much in terms of actual support. He's got a Cromwell, and he's lost his Mortar Pit, so really, really lackluster in terms of the actual support for his tanks. He's got a heavy tank and not much to actually help it out. Here comes a very nice barrage from 47. He has gone for the Anvil tactics. Because he's got those airburst shells, he can take down those OKW emplacements much, much faster than he would normally be able to. And that's fairly nice for him. He's also got the Perimeter Overwatch. I don't particularly like this ability, and I don't think he's going to be making much of a use out of it. At this time, however, 47 really needs to be building up a standard infantry force. He's got quite a lot of Royal Engineers and a Firefly. Firefly could be upgraded also with a Tulip Rocket rack, because he's got 460 munitions. 460 munitions, of course, means at least 4 shots with the Tulip Rockets. At the same time, though, he looks to be going for a more sort of, I guess, all-rounded force with a Centaur that's going to go down right now to the Rakettenwerfer in the building, and the Panzer IV. Panzer IV is not going to chase. That's shocking. Anyway, Firefly going to be coming in to support, and also a Priest, of course, because of the Royal Artillery Regiment. Fairly strong with those Priests. However, the Priest, or Sexton, sorry. The Sexton is okay. However, it's got its problems. Its range is lackluster. It's seen better days. And, of course, it can be fairly vulnerable, although not as vulnerable as this artillery piece, which just got Stuka bombed by 513. 513 has gone for an Elephant, which is definitely not a good decision, because as you can see, Lemel is going for some T-34-76s as well as some Su-85s. So he's got both the long-range firepower and the ability to flank and rush in aggressively that the T-34-76 allows him to do, as we saw with the destruction of this Panther. That can be a very deadly combination, and the Elephant really isn't going to be able to counter that all on his own. Right now, the Germans are definitely suffering from a lack of coordination between their operations. We see that AI Tetsuo is kind of just standing around, not really doing much. then seemingly going for a King Tiger, then not going for a King Tiger. His ally in the meantime has gone for a heavy tank destroyer, and the heavy tank destroyer doesn't support his push. Yeah, not really a lot of coordination coming in on the left side for the Germans. On the right side, it seems that Commander Jack is still on his defensive posture. In fact, his excessively defensive posture. As you can see, he's got just tons of forces. Looks like a some kind of counter battery befell that Stuka from Lancion, and so he's going to be losing that. Unfortunately for him, he's also got a ton of resources that he could go for with a Jagdtiger. I think that's what he's going to be going for. I think that's a mistake because on the right side, City 17 doesn't really like Jagdtigers. There's just too many vision block elements. There's too many houses, too many sort of bits of rubble, too many obstacles that can obstruct the line of sight of a Jagdtiger. But it's going to be fairly useful against both the Churchill Mark 7 and the Churchill AVRE, because of course the Jagdtiger is a very, very good counter to those heavy tanks. Along with a Tiger from Commander Jack, the Germans seem to be poised to launch a very, very strong attack on the right side of the map. In the meantime, AT-Gun's going to be bringing down this Churchill. The problem with bringing in those two big units on the right side is that the Allies don't really have anything on the right side to destroy. It's the Allies that are on the back foot on the right side, and the introduction of those two big vehicles doesn't really change the balance of power on the right side at all, because the Allies were already losing. Maybe it would have been a better idea for the Germans to bring in their big vehicles to try to help out their allies that are struggling on the left side, because they're really not doing all that much. And ooh, here comes a very nice Churchill AVRE. Does a lot of damage to the Tiger and forces it to retreat. That was definitely a bit of a micro from Commander Jack. He should have been paying a lot more attention to what his Tiger was doing. In the meantime, 47 does still have a lot of engineers. He could be going for the heavy engineer upgrade, but those are quite expensive at 70 munitions. Of course, I think he's trying to sort of coordinate his actions to his friend here, the Soviet player. Soviet player with quite a substantive sort of arsenal of jack-of-all-trade units. We have a lot of conscripts, D-34-76s, and a veteran C2 Su-85. Of course, that is pretty much the linchpin of his anti-tank. And there's a King Tiger from there, Tetsuo. Of course, that's what we were kind of expecting earlier. And the King Tiger is definitely not being used aggressively enough. The Germans seem to be having a sort of a deficit of aggression. They need to be a little bit more, I don't know, they need to have a little bit more courage in themselves. They can't just let the Allies retake the initiative. They had a few successes in the early game against the Allies, especially on the right side, but right now they're just kind of going in half-heartedly for attacks that don't really accomplish a lot. They've lost 2 Panthers this way, 1 Panther over here. Now the wreckage has been destroyed, but there was a Panther lost there. They lost a Panther on the left side of the map to this sort of commitment of going in piecemeal and not really coordinating offensives, and just in general not being aggressive enough at the correct moments. And now they've lost also the King Tiger on the right side. And they can, of course, oh, sorry, the Tiger. And they can lose the King Tiger on the left side. Wait, I think they have lost the King Tiger on the left side. Yes, they have. Because they've kind of just left it there to repair while a combined force for the Allies was approaching with that Su-85. Along with the support from 47. Again, coordination and decisive action at once from the Allies on the left. In the meantime, the Allies on the right seem to be still holding onto their ground, inflicting some casualties to the Germans. However, still not enough to sort of push them back, because the Germans on this right side of the map are just so much more dynamic in their play. The Allies are just sort of letting themselves lose the entirety of the right side of the map, and that's kind of a shame, because they have the potential to actually control a fairly large portion of the right side. In the meantime, on the left and the center, the Allies keep sort of gaining ground. Right now, a pretty huge amount of Panzergrenadiers from 513 seems to be trying to destroy this Centaur in general, to destroy a lot of Allied vehicles, but their hunt goes in a pretty sour direction when the C-3476 and the huge infantry horde from the Allies shows up and forces them to retreat. through their own minefield, mind you. Air Tatsuo going for some S minefields, definitely a good decision. However, he could, I guess, be a little bit more sort of cautious with his infantry. He's lost a lot of infantry. He's only got 2 focus grenadier squads left, and of course that doesn't really speak all that well to his ability to actually capture and control territory, which the Germans on the right side are having a lot of problems with. So Air Tetsuo definitely needs to be getting out some infantry, just like 47. 47 needs to get out a couple of infantry squads, infantry sections, to actually keep control over some points against German infantry. And he needs to also pay a little bit more attention to what his infantry needs in terms of upgrades, because he's got 400 munitions, and he hasn't upgraded his Firefly with the Tulip rockets, and he hasn't upgraded his infantry with Piats, which is essentially the 2 commandments of the British Bible. Get Piats, get Tulip rockets, and tanks aren't going to be a problem. Unfortunately for the Germans, Commander Jack comes in and tries to support the left side of the map. Very nice initiative coming in from Commander Jack. However, definitely puts the Tiger in not the best position possible. That's essentially something that you don't want to do with your heavy tanks. Going on alone without any kind of vehicle snares to back them up. Of course, there were Ostrupen around that could have come in and supported, but they were on the other side of this building. And then, of course, getting yourself trapped in between obstacles like these buildings is also not very good for the Germans. However, the Germans are starting to show some initiative, which is good. Commander Jack going on the left side is definitely very good. He's leaving, however, Lancion on the right side of the map, kind of on his own. Can Lancion actually keep this area under his control? I think so. It would be better, however, if he didn't go in for these kind of suicide attacks with his infantry against enemy vehicles and possibly infantry support and also sort of supportive structures like this port assembly. That would definitely be very good. Here comes a grenade from the Churchill, very devastating. Manages to recover a Panzerschreck with his Panzer Fusiliers, but the Panzer Fusiliers aren't going to be enough. Forced to retreat by the Churchill and the AVRE. Very lucky to escape with their lives in general. He was trying to, of course, spot for the Jagdtiger, but the Jagdtiger, with all of these sort of line of sight blockers, not really able to provide as much fire support as Lancion maybe would have hoped for. He's still got that battle group quarters right near the front line. He should definitely be using his Sturm Pioneers, however, to repair that battle group quarters, just in case the Allies decide to do sort of organize some kind of artillery barrage on it, because otherwise the battle group quarters is definitely going to go down. And there goes another squad to the AVRE. AVRE definitely proving itself as a fairly effective instrument of wipes for the Allies. Here comes a second Firefly from 47. That doesn't spell good tides for that Panzer IV, which indeed goes down. Second Elephant is on the field for 513. However, with the Panzer forces being reduced by 1, there aren't really a lot of vehicles that can actually support this Elephant. If the Allies decide to actually flank the Elephant with the T-34-76 from LeMail, along with the fire support from the Su-85 and of course the 2 Fireflies, perhaps even using a distraction action from the Centaur, some vehicle snares from the conscripts, and maybe even a bit of an artillery barrage from the Sexton, trying to get a few lucky hits, that Elephant is definitely going to go down quickly. There goes another huge amount of German troops. The Germans need to be much more careful about this AVRE, although at this point I think it's a little bit too late for Lancion, because he has lost way too many troops. And there goes the Sexton. Nishino is kind of interested by that. I'm not sure if that was actually his reaction to the AVRE kills. Not sure. Still, could have been better for the Germans on the right side. However, as you can see, Lancion is still able to essentially hold on to this entire area by himself. If he hadn't lost all that infantry, he would still be able to essentially 1v2 on this side. Mostly because the Allies are just so very defensive on the right side. And in general, they could be a little bit more aggressive. And of course, they could be using their Fuhrmann units in a little bit of a better way. Of course, there's a lot of decent infantry coming in from Pure Hydro, or I guess that was lost by Pure Hydro, with the Partisan Tank Hunters and the Papasha Conscripts. He could have been using them a little bit more dynamically, trying to essentially harass the Ag Tiger, keeping some of the German infantry sort of at bay and away from the Allied vehicles. In the meantime, the Germans, especially Commander Jack, could have been essentially trying a little bit more to actually go into other areas of the map. Commander Jack eventually decided to sort of transfer his units to other places in the map, which is, of course, very commendable. Right now, he's taking an interesting little position between the two bases. I don't think this is a very, very good choice for him, because that's kind of leaving him exposed on both sides. If you can, as you can see, there's some troops coming in from the north, troops that can come in from the east, and troops coming in from the west. Especially these shock troops against the Osttruppen are going to have a field day. Unfortunately for the T-34-76, the Pack Gun is also having a bit of a field day and managing to destroy T-34-76 quite easily, especially with the help of that Panzer IV. That T-34's days are numbered. I don't think that they're going to be able to save their own tank. Might be able to. Nah. Here comes the chase from the Panzer IV. Panzer IV House J. Or what? No. Panzer IV House H from Commander Jack. Definitely pretty decent. However, might be in trouble because of the Su-85. I don't think that Panzer IV is really in trouble. If it... Okay, manages this game. Good. At the same time, though, I really don't think the Germans have much of a chance at this point. I mean, they're really losing on the VP front, and that's kind of bad when you're also losing the engagements, because the Germans still have a bit of a superiority in terms of, I guess, quality of units with the Ag Tigers, with the Panthers on the field, that they can use well, but the Allies just have, oh, that's bad for the Churchill. The Allies just have a lot of units that are a little bit being spread out better. Essentially, only a couple of the German players, the ones on the right side, are actually utilizing their units dynamically and not sort of going in over and over and over on the same side of the map. Yeah, Piats would be very good right now for 47. I still think so. Piats and, of course, the Tulip Rockets for the Firefly would both be very, very nice additions to his arsenal. Interesting. Doesn't really seem like the Germans have much of an infantry force ready to actually capture the center. Partially because they lost so much to that AVRE. Partially because they neglected to actually rebuild their forces. Commander Jack still is loading quite a lot of manpower, and I'm thinking that AI Tetsuo... No, AI Tetsuo is actually not floating anymore. It's like he's lost enough. Oh no, he's actually built a PaK-43 and an LEFH artillery piece. That's not the two units that he should have actually spent his hard-earned manpower on, I think. I think he should have gone for some more infantry. At this point, bit of a push attempt from AI Tetsuo and 513 finally trying to do something about the Allied rise on the left side of the map, but not really going all that well. The Panzergrenadier is getting kind of suppressed by this MG42. Actually, a stolen MG42. I thought it was a Vectors. Stolen MG42 and the Jagdpanzer from AI Tetsuo being forced to retreat by the Fireflies. In the meantime, T-34-76 coming in from the flank, trying to essentially force away the Panzergrenadiers is going to encounter with some successes. In the meantime, yeah, the Germans really need to be capturing and holding some VPs. 47 absolutely needs to be using some of his manpower. He's got just way too many manpower units in reserve. He could be going for some... Well, of course he could be going for infantry sections, but I'm trying to think about something else. He could be going for a mortar pit in the center, actually, because the Germans won't really be expecting something like this, and it might help holding the central VP against German incursions, and also it could definitely help in sort of keeping more tabs on the German defensive positions, managing to get some indirect fire on them to suppress them when you actually go in for an offensive like Lemio is doing right now with these conscripts. Doesn't really seem to be needing all that much help because the MG42 is positioned in, actually an MG34 is positioned in not a very good position. That's not very good English, but whatever. He could have been bringing up the MG34 to the sort of logs over here to get some more cover and also to be in range of enemy units that are actually pouring into the VP. Very unfortunate for the Jagdtiger, the fact that it's getting surrounded by T-3476. This is exactly what I was talking about with the right side of the map and line of sight blockers. Lucky that this T-3476 gets a bit of a damaged engine from a mine, I'm guessing, and isn't going to be able to do quite as much in the destruction of the Jagdtiger as it could have otherwise been doing. However, Jagdtiger trying to escape by showing its rear armor definitely not going to help its chances of survival. In fact, reducing them to 0. And the Germans are down to 50 points. There's really not much they can do. And Naishino going for some Tulip rockets. At least he's doing it. Right now he's also got this Churchill AVRE that's still alive and is at 50 kills. That is quite a lot. And there comes the surrender of the Germans. Coordination, coordination, coordination. Of course, in a 4v4 it's not easy, but coordination is the name of the game. At least between the two players that are cooperating on one side of the map, or are supposed to be cooperating on one side of the map. As you saw, Lancion and Commander Jack had a bit of a better time of it on the right side for most of the game. Then Commander Jack and Lancion were, of course, forced to sort of shift themselves onto more western areas of the map to help out their teammates. Their teammates, however, they really weren't able to actually get together a force that was coherent and was able to make decent offensives. They kind of tried to turtle around the strategic point. Of course, not really the best point to turtle around because there isn't really much to defend here. Once the buildings are destroyed and the battle group of warriors over here sort of burned down, there wasn't really much that they could have done to also sort of keep control of the area. So also their turtling failed, and then they just kind of fell apart back to their base. Whereas if they had been able to coordinate a little bit more, and if Air Tetsuo hadn't been spending all his manpower on ridiculous stuff like the Pak-43 and of course the artillery piece, they would have had a lot more sort of units to keep map control around the left side of the map. And also that would have kept a little bit of support to the Panzergrenadier Horde from 513, and of course to the Elephants. Elephants, not really the best choice, but definitely acceptable, whereas the Jagdtiger on the right side for Lancion could have been avoided, I think. I don't think that Jagdtiger really gave a lot of weight to the Germans on the right side. It, of course, did help very heavily against those Churchills, but the Churchills were still able to inflict a lot of damage, especially the AVRE getting 50 kills. And I think that a couple of Panthers would have been able to do the job just fine without sacrificing so much versatility as Jagdtiger does. Because, of course, the Jagdtiger is only really useful against enemy vehicles. And even at that, against certain kinds of enemy vehicles, you saw how easy it was for the T-3476s to just flank around this ruined factory complex, getting in behind the Jagdtiger when it was just slightly exposed, just slightly overextended, getting in behind, and at that point, the Jagdtiger really wasn't able to escape. For the Allies, 47 needs to use his manpower a lot better. And I think that the munitions usage could have also been a little bit more, well, parceled out. I think that a lot of that was partially because he was trying to save up for the concentration barrages, but those are only 100 points of munitions. I think that one of these Shermans could have been upgraded with some tulips, definitely, and a couple of squads with Piats, also definitely. Other than that, Lemeo going for an interesting little strategy of just sort of keeping himself with his options open, right? He went for a very jack-of-all-trades army. He always had a couple of conscripts, a couple of engineers. He also had, in the early stages, a couple of machine guns, and in the end he ended up stealing a couple of MG42s, so keeping himself quite versatile on the infantry front, and on the armor front, he also kept it fairly simple with an Su-85 and a couple of T-34-76s. He lost a couple of T-34-76s in the way, but that's exactly what the T-34s are for. They managed to protect the Su-85, and overall very solid play allowed the Su-85 to get fetch free, which of course is very important because of that extra penetration and rate of fire that they get from the veterancy bonuses for the Su-85, making it into a very, very strong anti-vehicle unit. So Lemel, pretty much overall fine. Only thing I'm kind of skeptical about is the doctrinal pick. Terror tactics, yes, they can be fairly good with the shock troops. Fairly underrated fear propaganda artillery can actually rout enemy AT guns, especially useful against enemy pack guns, although fairly useful against Reckoner Rippers as well, even though Reckoner Rippers can retreat on their own. KV Flamethrower, the absence of that from Lemel's build is kind of an interesting choice, because it really, that could have helped immensely at dealing with some of these forces over here from AI Tetsuo, because he was very early, and the KV Flamethrower does indeed excel against that. He could have gone for something like, something of course a little bit more traditional, like a Guards Rifle, sorry, yeah, like, never mind, I forgot the name of the doctrine. The one of these two. You all know what I'm talking about. It's kind of late in the, in the evening right now, sorry. Yeah, Kaiko no Shino, definitely a pretty okay play, but again, lots and lots of manpower float, not the best. Pure Hydro, also going for some interesting little plays, but I liked his play a little bit more than I liked Kaiko no Shino's. Especially also because he later was able to bring out some Kachushi and push up along with his strong sort of backbone of infantry from the rapid conscription. And so he was able to actually recapture some territory on the red side that the allies had lost. Guys Rifle Frontline Tactics. Right. That's the name of that doctrine. And so yeah, I want to thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Hope you learned something. And I'll see you soon.